might as well get started with just talking a little bit about the meditation technique. This technique is very simple, and it's not the technique that's challenging when it comes to practicing meditation. It's practicing meditation that's challenging when it comes to practicing meditation. Meaning that the practice of meditation really is a lifestyle. If you are going to establish a practice of meditation, it's important to understand you're establishing a lifestyle that begins with a formal practice that we do a particular way every day for a very specific period of time. But the purpose of doing the formal practice is to prepare ourselves to experience this state of being consistently in life. We start out formally, and then through practicing consistently every day for a specific period of time, starting at a time that you can manage, that you can sit still and be silent, and then gradually practicing and expanding the time frame of your practice session until you get up to around 30 minutes. 30 minutes is the practice time that is used in Zen practice, which I have ended up finding works for me, 30 minutes a day. And I think the reason that it has ended up being 30 minutes in Zen, because it takes about, if you're practicing consistently and building up to 30 minutes, it takes about 30 minutes to experience the state of being that we call meditation. And it involves gradually practicing relaxing the physical body. So relaxing the physical body is part of the practice, important part of the practice. And then it also involves calming the mind, calming the voice in your head, the thinking activity, slowing it down, getting it quieter. And so we do that by using our ability to move attention away from the thinking activity and pay attention to the body breathing. So that's the basic process of mindfulness, is to pay attention to the breath. And in this practice, we use chairs. You can sit on the floor to practice, but it's not necessary to sit in a full lotus position or a half lotus position or even to sit on the floor. In fact, once you establish yourself in a practice of meditation, and once you have an experiential understanding of what meditation is, you can begin to practice informally. You can actually practice meditation anytime, anywhere, under all circumstances. But not in the beginning. In the beginning, you have to do it formally so that you can develop your ability to focus your attention. You can develop your ability to relax the physical body. You can develop your ability to calm the mind. And once you get to a place where you have the ability to bring yourself into this calm and relaxed state, it starts to become possible to be aware of this state of being that we call meditation. This state of being in which there's tranquility and there's clarity, there's peace, there is a sense of well-being, there's a sense of happiness, there's a sense of satisfaction. And this state that we discover through the practice of formal meditation, this state of being is actually our true nature. It's called the natural state. It's the way it would be if we were experiencing the truth. And what I mean by that is, the truth is that you're not the thinker of thoughts. You're not the voice in your head. The truth is you have a body, but you're not the body. Right? The truth is that we have become indoctrinated, and we have become conditioned through the process of learning how to be a human being. We did that. We all did that. When we were born into an already world, an already existing reality, right? And so we got educated to become part of that. We got civilized and educated to become part of that. We learned to participate in life with other human beings, that we had to have a piece on the board to play this game. We call that the body. You have a piece on the board, a body. And then in addition to that, you have to have an identity. So when we're born into this world, the reality of our existence when we're born into this world is that we're experiencing ourselves as our natural state, as our true nature, which is consciousness or awareness itself. And that state of being is a state in which there is an inherent sense of well-being, inherent sense, a natural sense of well-being, happiness, satisfaction, and peace. And then we learn to be human. We're given a name. We understand that we're part of a tribe. We live in this particular society, in this particular country. We have a particular family. And so we take on that story and that identity. And for most of humanity, once that identity is taken on, that becomes the life of that person. The natural state, before that identity occurred, is forgotten. And so people, you don't remember when you were an infant because there was nothing to remember. You were just there. And so most of humanity has identified themselves as the physical body and has identified themselves as the personality. And one of the things about that identity is that it isn't long in life before it becomes apparent that the experience of being that identity is unfulfilling. The experience of being that identity is an experience in which there's some sense of something missing, something lacking. And so the process begins very early on of attempting to improve that experience somehow. Attempting to not be nervous and be peaceful, attempting to not be anxious and be peaceful, attempting to be happy and not disturbed or upset or suffering. So the human life begins to take form in terms of it's a constant situation in which the person is attempting to be safe, is attempting to be calm, is attempting to be happy and peaceful. And we learn in society, we learn from those who were here before us that happiness is something we're all pursuing. It's interesting because when we hear the pursuit of happiness, especially when it's spoken of in relationship to this country, you're guaranteed that pursuit of happiness. It's in the Constitution. We hear that like, oh, that's great, that's wonderful, that we're guaranteed the pursuit of happiness. We don't stop and notice that if we participate in the pursuit of happiness, we're starting from a condition called I'm unhappy. We don't notice that. The reason that you're guaranteed the pursuit of happiness is because you're unhappy. So most human beings spend their entire life pursuing happiness, well-being, peace of mind, and satisfaction. And the way we learn to do that is to get what we want. Simple, right? Just get what you want. So your life becomes about getting what you want. It's about getting money, getting material wealth, getting relationships, And if you get the right setup, if you get the right circumstances, the promise is you'll be happy, you'll be peaceful, and you'll be satisfied. The interesting thing is that if you look at the evidence, that's not true. The evidence speaks very clearly that humanity is in a condition of suffering. Even those among us who are crazy wealthy are still unhappy and pursuing happiness. So obviously the evidence indicates pretty clearly that this business of getting what you want to be happy is a failed process. And it's one of the reasons that people get interested in meditation, because they're unhappy, they're anxious, they're depressed, they're dysfunctional, they're addicted. And as a practicing psychologist for 40 years, I'm used to seeing this condition in all the varieties that it gets presented to me when people come for psychotherapy. And it's evident to me through my experience of teaching and practicing meditation for 50 years that this condition doesn't have to exist, that there is a remedy to this condition that human beings find themselves in. And the remedy is to start to practice sitting still and being silent and observing the body breathing so that you can come out of this thought activity, come out of this world that you have learned is real, and begin to pay attention to and experience the reality that is actually real, not just appearing to be real, but actually real. And that reality is the reality of the awareness itself. This is the natural state. This is our true nature. The awareness that you are is already, and this is one of the discoveries that can come about through practicing meditation. The awareness that you and I are is already satisfied, happy, and peaceful. So the pursuit of happiness need not continue as an activity that you do from day to night, daily. You know, you can, through meditation, you can discover that happiness is a natural condition. It's a natural state. And when you are able to come out of the identification that the mind keeps generating, that you're this body and this personality, when you're able to gradually come out of that and start to experience what it's like to be what you are, which is awareness itself, which is always here in the now, which is never dissatisfied or unhappy. Why? Because the awareness that we are is a formless, timeless state in which there is a direct relationship with reality, so that we're not thinking about who we are. Who we are isn't given by our thought process. The world isn't created through a thought activity, but rather when you wake up and start to experience your true nature as consciousness and awareness, you start to realize that you can see the world directly without thinking about it. And you can actually know what you're looking at without thinking about it. This is a discovery that people make, that we don't trust awareness because we think if we don't think, we won't know what's going on. I have to think about what's going on to know what's going on. In meditation, you can begin to discover, if you move your attention away from the thinking activity, that you don't start freaking out and go into terror because you don't know what's going on. You do continue to know what's going on when you're paying attention to the body breathing. And when you know what's going on, you're experiencing your natural ability to know that's given by awareness without thinking. This is a big deal to discover that. It means you don't have to be thinking from dawn till dusk in order to be happy and satisfied. As a matter of fact, if you continue to believe that thinking works and you continue with the bad habit and the addiction of thinking all the time, you'll discover that's the state that's causing the suffering. You know, this business of thinking that I am the body and the personality and then trying to be happy, you know, in an unpredictable world that's changing all the time is a failed project. And so it's time to call a failed project and start to pursue reality, start to pursue what actually works. And meditation is a way of doing that, coming out of the dream, waking up to reality, discovering the possibility of being happy, satisfied, and peaceful under all conditions. So this is a revelation. This is maybe the most radical thing you could ever discover. And unfortunately, meditation has only been understood to be stress reduction for the most part in our society. It's seen to be kind of a cool thing, like a new age thing, you know, that people do. But the reality of what it makes possible is still not really thoroughly understood. There is research going on, there's brain research going on now that holds the promise of being able to, well, it's already validated that meditation does work. It changes the brain, the function and the processing of the brain. That's already been validated. But now we're studying the areas of the brain in which this ongoing thinking activity called the default state occurs. And the default state has been identified by brain science as the state when you're not consciously, actively, intentionally thinking, right? When you're not consciously, actively, intentionally thinking, the voice in your head continues to talk, doesn't it? This is called the default state. You know, it's default in the sense when you're not actively using your awareness and your brain and your thought process, the brain keeps running, it keeps processing information, keeps talking to you with the voice in your head. And for most human beings, they consider the voice to be who they are. I am thinking when that voice is talking. Through meditation, you can discover that that's a mistake. That voice is not you. The evidence is clear that it's not you, because if it was you, you wouldn't say those things. If it was you, you wouldn't talk that way. You wouldn't be so negative. You wouldn't be so afraid. You wouldn't criticize yourself so much if that was you. So the evidence is there that the voice is not you. And now through meditation, we're practicing developing being aware and being able to pay attention, right, consistently all the time after we practice this for a while, so that you can be aware of what the voice is saying, and when it goes off the rails, you don't go with it. When it gets crazy, you don't get crazy. You see it producing the crazy thoughts. You see it producing the mistaken perceptions and so forth, but you stop following it. And when you stop following it and you start depending on your direct experience of what's happening, you can start to go sane. You know, the condition of humanity, generally speaking, and I can say this because I have a license, I'm a psychologist, the condition of humanity, generally speaking, is insanity. Now, we don't look at it that way because if we're all insane, if we're all neurotic, then we're all normal, right? So, but one of the things that's important to motivate yourself to practice meditation is to realize that if you keep flying with this herd, you're flying to hell. If you keep running with this herd, you're running off the cliff with the herd, right? If you keep assuming that being crazy and calling it normal works, right? If you keep assuming that, you will continue to suffer. So the promise of the practice of meditation is to wake up from the dream, is to wake up and see things as they really are, and wake up and discover that you can go sane, you can come out of the suffering that's common for humanity. You can be peaceful, you can be happy and satisfied, and you don't have to pursue it. It's already the case. All you have to do is start paying attention to who you really are and what's actually true, and these experiences are available all the time to all of us, but only in the present moment, because the present moment is the only reality that exists. Right? So if you think that you're going to wake up in the future, or you think you're going to experience peace, happiness, and fulfillment in the future, you're back in the pursuit again, as if it's not here now, you see. So you're back in the pursuit again. Right? So one of the teachings about the practice of meditation is that if you relax the body and calm the mind and pay attention and get out of your head, you'll start experiencing a spontaneous, natural state called happiness. So the technique is very simple. It's the easiest thing. The technique is the easiest part of the practice. The hardest part of the practice is to do it consistently every single day the way it's meant to be done. And most people who attempt to establish a meditation practice fail. They fail because they're not prepared for the challenge of it. They fail because when they start out, it's like a honeymoon, right? You start out, oh, this is cool, I'm meditating, right? But then as you continue to practice, the coolness wears out, and it starts to become like, wow, man, I got to meditate. The voice in your head starts trying to talk you out of the practice, right? So most people can't get through that challenge because they start to identify with the voice in their head. They listen to what it says, and then they just stop practicing, right? So that's practicing stupidity. So in this class, one of the things that I think is important is motivation. Understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it, and being motivated to practicing it. So you continue to do the practice until you get yourself grounded, until you start to experience what this makes possible. Once you start to experience what this makes possible, the practice is easy, right? It becomes as easy as brushing your teeth. And the reason you brush your teeth is because you want to keep them, right? The reason you meditate is because you want to go sane. It's a very grounded, logical, intelligent right? Wise thing to do to practice meditation so you can experience enjoying your life instead of coping with it. So the technique is very simple. If you're doing it in a chair, you have your feet flat on the floor. Your hands, you can just rest them on the thighs, or you can put them in what's called a mudra, which is a particular form of holding your hands that is consistent with being alert, awake, and conscious. So it's helpful to maintain your attention. And a mudra is just to take your left hand, rest it in your right, put your thumbs together and create like a circle here, and then just let that sit in your lap. Or you can just rest your hands on your thighs. Feet are flat on the floor. We want to keep the back straight. So as we're practicing meditation, we're allowing the energy to flow freely in the body. And we want to relax the body. We want to take time to slow down before we go into the formal practice. Start to become aware, sense the physical body. And we want to take some time to systematically relax the physical body, starting from the tip of the head, going to the feet, gradually coming through the body, scanning, paying attention, looking for tension, tightness, contraction. We know that there's a lot of tension and holding and tightness in the eye sockets. We know there is a lot of holding in the jaw and the neck and the shoulders. So this is a practice of becoming aware of that, feeling that. And when you feel that, the body releases naturally. If you become aware that you're holding your shoulders up, your shoulders drop. So we're not trying to relax. That would be resisting. We're just allowing the body to do what it knows how to do, which is to let go and relax. Very important to relax the physical body. Very important to slow down. We want the back to be straight. And then we want to also allow the weight of the body to fall into the seat or the floor. And the way we do this is we pay attention to a spot that's about an inch below the navel. That's called the dantian, or the hara. This is the center of energy in the body. And if you focus on that center, below that center, going straight down into the chair, is a center of balance in which we can sit. And if you rock back and forth a little bit, you'll find between the buttocks touching the chair, in the middle, you'll find a sweet spot. So you want to find that spot, and you want to be able to sit in such a way that your back is straight, and you can allow the weight of the body to fall into the chair so that your body is stacked like a stack of coins, and you can relax the body, let the weight of the body drop into the chair, and let go. You can sit this way without moving for a period of time. So that's part of the practice. Then the next thing we want to do is start to become aware of breathing, become aware of the breath. And we follow the breath at the belly. We follow the breath at the belly because the belly moves when we breathe. So we start noticing breathing. Start noticing the breath at the belly. And we breathe in a natural way. It's called abdominal breathing or baby breathing, meaning that when you take in the air, when you inhale, the belly expands. When you exhale, the belly contracts. So we begin following the breath at the belly, breathing naturally. When we inhale, the belly expands. When we exhale, the belly contracts. And as we follow the breath, it won't be long before a thought occurs, and our attention goes with the thought and starts to go into thinking mode. This is natural. This will happen. It's part of the practice. And when you realize you're thinking, you bring your attention back to the belly and the breathing. So throughout the practice, you go back and forth. Find yourself thinking, come back to the breath. Find yourself thinking, come back to the breath. We're doing this over and over again to develop our ability to pay attention consistently and maintain our attention where we place it. We're also practicing our ability to move attention away from thought and be aware of the body breathing. If we do this consistently over time, we start to wake up to the reality that the awareness that's aware of the body breathing is our true nature. And so this is the experience that we're practicing having, is experiencing this awareness that is always available, this awareness that is quiet, silent, still, peaceful, satisfied, and happy. As you continue to practice meditation and you're able to be aware of the breath more consistently, you start to notice this different experience, this experience of well-being that's available. This is the practice of meditation. So now we'll do a practice session. I'll keep track of the time so you don't have to think about time. Just stay with the breath. I'll ring a bell once to start us, and I'll ring a bell 3 times to stop the session. During the time of the practice, if you start to fall asleep, take a breath and come back. Practice strong determination, strong intention to remain alert and relaxed during the entire session. Whatever happens during this session, practice allowing it to be as it is. Any sounds outside the room, any sensations in the body, allow everything to continue to be just as it is. We're not trying to change anything or control anything. Just maintain attention on the body breathing.